So my name is Professor Arif Herekar. I'm basically a professor of neurology. I've been practicing neurology, both adult and children, neurology or child neurology, for the last 40 years. Now, what has brought this up is something to do other than neurology, because I have patients who come in from different parts of the world, and we see some of these patients have consistent diarrhea and vomiting. So GI upsets. So the question is, why does one have GI upset? There are so many reasons for it. I'm not going to go into gastroenterology, but what I'm going to tell you is that we are missing something called lactose intolerance. We must address that, the young doctors. So what is lactose intolerance? But before we go into lactose intolerance, let's talk about lactase persistence. Lactase persistence is the ability of the adults to digest the lactose in milk. It varies widely in frequency across the human population. The trait represents an adaptation to the domestication of dairy animals, and of course the subsequent consumption of milk. Now, people keep on asking the difference between lactose intolerance and lactase persistence. So lactose intolerance is a recessive trait, whereas lactase persistence is a dominant trait. The lactase persistence locus is between intron 13 and exon 17. I'm talking of the genes now. And then we're talking of the mini chromosome maintenance complex 6 gene, MCMB, located upstream of the lactase gene LCT. Some human populations, though lactase persistence has recently evolved as an adaptation to the consumption of non-human milk and dairy products beyond infancy. The majority of the people around the world remain lactase non-persistent and consequently are affected by varying degrees of lactose intolerance in adults. So how common is lactose intolerance in babies? My pediatric neurology patients come and ask me. Now, the question is, can infants be lactose intolerant? Now, lactose intolerance is actually not very common in infants and typically only starts showing up after the age of 3 in children who are born full term. All babies are born with lactase in their intestines. As they grow older, the lactase enzyme decreases. So when we talk of lactose intolerance, there are 4 types: the primary, the secondary, the developmental, and the congenital. Primary lactose intolerance occurs as the amount of lactase declines as people age. Secondary lactose intolerance is due to injury in the small intestine. So these are things that you need to know. Look at the international status of prevalence of lactose intolerance. You'll see that 90%, remember 90%, that's what I was trying to tell you, is that when I have been visiting Africa for 11 years now, and I've seen quite a lot of lactose intolerance in Africans and of course in Asians. So 90% of the African and Asian populations have lactose intolerance. And of course, symptoms I've just told you, and I repeat for those who'd like to know, that flatulence, diarrhea, stomachache, and of course vomiting. So when you have this lactose intolerance, what do? You try to avoid milk, cheese, ice cream, and things like chocolates that contain dairy products, and that will help you treat the symptoms of lactose intolerance. Now, 75% of people have various forms of lactose intolerance. The treatment is try to avoid the intake of lactose, so you can take lactose-free milk. Now, coming to lactose is the sugar naturally found in dairy. You must know that. And what happens is that when you look at milk, if you try to analyze milk, yogurt, and low-fat hard cheeses, then milk will have like 12 grams of lactose in 1 cup, 8 ounces, 250 ml. Remember that. Yogurt, the regular yogurt, will have 5 grams of lactose, which is 4.4 ounces or 125 grams. And when you look at low-fat hard cheeses like cheddar cheese, you'll see that the traces of lactose are 1.6 ounces. So you have to avoid foods containing lactase or lactose, and you must take lactose-free milk to treat yourself. I hope you have understood what I'm trying to say. I am a neurologist, but these things you will encounter these as a young doctor or as a general public, that you will be treating this. Otherwise, if you go through this session of mine, you will be able to at least point out that this may well be a case of lactose intolerance. I hope you have understood this. And if you haven't subscribed to my educational channel, um, do subscribe to it. Do write a little note under the video on the YouTube. And if you think it's worth it, press the like icon. Thank you.